Hi everyone, welcome back to the show. Today I'm talking about using data science to create valuable external relationships with partners, suppliers, stakeholders, customers, if you like. And to do that, I've got Viktor Kazinec, and he's the head of analytics at Close Brothers. Viktor, really pleased to have you on the show finally.
Jason, thanks for having me on the podcast.
Yeah, no problem. So look, normally I like to just introduce you to the audience. It'd be great if you could do the honors for that. A bit about you, your current role at Close Brothers, and a little bit about your background would be awesome.
Sure. So you can probably hear I'm not from the UK. Came to the UK in 2006 to do a finance degree at Loughborough. And then my first job was with transfer pricing team in PwC, which was a really great introduction in the world of commerce and how businesses operate, how businesses get bought and sold. It was a fascinating graduate scheme. And after the graduate scheme at PwC, I joined Close Brothers in a generalist role, doing everything from helping create new MI systems, to preparing new business plans. And within Close Brothers, I started to do more and more work with data, which then led to doing quite an intense data science course at General Assembly, running a couple of pilots around data science, and then starting the data science team at Close Brothers.
Oh, great! So you left Close Brothers to do that course, or that was sort of part of your development at Close Brothers?
So it was something that Close Brothers sponsored me to do, which is Close Brothers are quite good with their development of employees, and got me an opportunity to do the course.
Fantastic. Great. And so now you're the, so actually just talk to us about Close Brothers. People may not know who they are, so just who they are, what they do, the kind of business they're in.
Yeah, it's a specialist financial group. So it's made of a specialist lender, a bank, but we also have an asset management business and a market making, a trading business. We're based in the UK and Ireland, and it's quite a well diversified group. So it's made out of a number of different business units within the banking division. So we work within the central team. So we get to work with all the different business units within the bank. And in general, Close Brothers has quite a long-term view on the business. So disciplined underwriting, prudent management of finances. We're quite unique in the sense that we borrow long and then lend short.
Right.
So it means that I guess it's a lower risk business. And as a result, we have to also focus quite heavily on those customer relationships and providing the value-add service to our customers and the partners that we work with.
Got it. So who are your customers then from that perspective? So are you selling financial products direct to consumers, or are you through sort of intermediaries or other businesses? How does that work?
So I have a mix of businesses, and a number of businesses are your, I guess, traditional business-to-business businesses where we lend to small and medium-sized businesses in the UK. So for example, for your asset finance loans, if someone is trying to buy some manufacturing equipment or transport equipment, we can provide loans for that. Right. We also have an invoice finance business. And then we have a couple of retail facing businesses where we partner with other businesses to then provide loans to individuals in the UK. So that's in our motor finance business, we work with secondhand car dealers. And in our insurance finance business, where we work with insurance brokers, underwriting commercial loans and also car and home loans of individuals.
Great. Okay, so from a data point of view, you've got a nice broad view of, you've got the kind of the broad transactional activity of end consumers, but also the interactivity between you and your partners that you work with to deliver that service to consumers as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's great that we get exposed to the commercial data and also the individual data. Because the complexity comes to generate benefit from data, you have to understand the business models quite well. At the end of the day, data and data science is just an enabler of the business strategy. So the complexities and the fact that you have to learn and understand all these different models. So it usually takes a while until you run a project with all of the businesses if you join Close Brothers.
Got it. Cool. So from like in terms of how you're set up then to serve the, I think you talked about running, serving across all the different business units, business lines, different departments within Close Brothers. How have you set yourself up, you and your team, to serve analytics to the business?
So we are quite a small team. It's me and two data scientists. And we work with, as I mentioned, we work with all the different business units across the bank. So we have to work quite closely with the management teams of all different business units to understand their businesses, understand any pain points, and trying to see whether data and data science can help them in that specific application.
Cool. And I guess given that you're there and have been working on this for a little while, there's plenty of opportunity for data science in those business units. How, what kind of work do you do with those guys, either internally or externally?
So the data science team is relatively new in Close Brothers. We started in 2018 with an internal team. It's also interesting how we approached building the data science team in the first place. Usually it's quite a big commitment to start a new team if the value of that capability is unproven in the business.
Yeah.
So
how did that work then?
So initially we started with a couple of proof of concepts. As I mentioned, I did a data science, a course at General Assembly, which, I'm not kidding myself. I didn't become a data scientist suddenly after a 3-month evening course, right?
Yeah.
So the question was of how do you actually then run a couple of valuable proof of concepts, deliver a high quality product in a technical field like data science. And it was lucky that at the same time I came across a company called Pivigo, who run programs a couple of times a year called Science to Data Science, but they bring quantitative PhD students who want to leave academia and become data scientists in the commercial world, together with businesses that want to run data science projects. So this is quite an interesting way of running proof of concepts without that high initial commitment from a business perspective. But it also gives back to the data community. You give that valuable experience to the students, which then helps them with the interviews and selecting the jobs that they'd be interested in. So that was our approach. We ran a couple of proof of concepts in 2016 and 2017 that proved the value and I guess supported the business case to start the team within the bank.
How did you choose what use cases, what proof of concepts you should point your embryonic team at? Was there like some obvious choices within the business, or did you go for kind of really, meaty data science challenges, or was it, identify some interested stakeholders that could really help articulate a problem and work really closely? Like, how did you come to decide which 1 or 2 use cases you should focus on for your proof of concepts?
I think I followed a relatively classic now path of people moving into data and data science, where you are interested in that area because you're just passionate about the data. I always loved math. Just some dark period where I went and did a finance degree at Loughborough, right? So to start with, I just thought that the area was absolutely interesting. You get to work with data, with very smart people and solve problems. So to start with, I just wanted to try a proof of concept and see whether we can generate some value within Close Brothers using data science. Right. So after meeting Pivigo, I basically rang all the different executives across the bank, checking if anyone was interested in running a data science project. And a commercial director within our insurance finance business, within Premium Finance, he was interested in trying data science as a value-add service for one of our biggest brokers. Okay. So that was a really, I guess, good coincidence that he had this appetite to run a proof of concept, and we had that opportunity with Pivigo.
Nice. So proactively hunted down some people who had a problem and could see the value of, or hopefully think that there might be some value in applying some data science thinking to it. Love that. Cool. Now obviously, one or more of those were successful. To kind of keep going, keep you interested, frankly, and keep you growing your team and the value it delivers. But what was the success? Was it valuable, like, profitable commercial output, or was it actually, was the success the learning that you got, the proof that you could do data science, the proof that you could bring data sets together? Like, was it more kind of learning around the capability, or was it more valuable output, or maybe there's a bit of both of that, or something else indeed?
I think it's the combination of all three of those. So just to explain how the industry works, you have your insurance industry, and you have a number of players in the industry. And as I mentioned, we work with insurance brokers who provide insurance for cars, for homes, to individuals across the UK. And if customers decide to pay by installments and not in a one-off payment, then we in the backend provide the finance to the brokers. And also, as I mentioned, we focus quite on the long term of the business. So we usually create quite long-term commitments with our brokers, and delivering the value add is part of how Close Brothers operates. Right. So then the data science became one of these value add services for some of the top brokers in the UK, or our partners. And the idea there was that we would challenge and help brokers build and develop more advanced machine learning models to help understand the customer behavior better. Right. Because at the end of the day, brokers, they provide insurance in the industry, but they also have to price the customer value, right? Depending on the customer behavior. I use an example of me going on a holiday to Mallorca and booking a hotel. I might not be such a great hotel customer because I probably spend most of my time cycling in Mallorca. I'm a big cyclist, versus someone who might book some tourist trips and buy all these additional products with the hotel. That customer is a lot more valuable to the hotel. So I think it's appropriate if, for example, a hotel would offer a better deal to the customers who are more valuable to them, to the brokers. So that's how we worked with the brokers, and it's really great that broker and our interests align, because if we can make brokers more successful, if we can help them become 10% more successful, it also means that they provide 10% more business to us. Right. So you have this 100% alignment between us and the brokers. And data science is just one of the value-add services that we focus on. Being part of a big bank means that we can invest in other technical skill sets. For example, we've run projects using design, helping them with websites optimizations. So data science is just one of those examples.
Yeah. So I think you sort of like clarified a point there, that much of your focus is on what you're calling value-add services to your partners, your customers, who are the brokers in that example. And that value-add service is essentially doing data science work that helps your customer be more successful in the first instance. That's the focus. And then, as you say, a default or a return from that is that, you're more successful, as in Close Brothers. Is that, have I understood that right?
Yes, I think, the idea is let's make our partners as successful, or try and contribute to their success as much as we can, because our interests are aligned. It really helps us create better relationships with brokers as well. Yeah. And the teams working within brokers are absolutely fascinating. They are very entrepreneurial. They're very open to all new ideas, because the market is very competitive in the UK. Yeah. So they have to always compete and try to identify a new competitive edges. So it's always fascinating to see how they approach the business.
You've got like a layer of challenge like bursting in my head here. So I've got to ask you about. So we talk to a lot of organizations who struggle to convince their own internal business to invest in data science, and there's lots of reasons why there's a challenge with that. One of which often is just they can't position the benefit, they can't explain the benefit, they can't articulate the benefit well enough. And here you are talking about doing data science for your customers. So not only have you got to convince your own internal crew that there's value and show, and you've explained some of the ways you've done that and built that credibility, you've also got to try and convince your internal people to convince your partners and customers to do this and then do it. So my head's like bursting with with the challenge and how difficult that must have been. But can you talk to some of that? How did you go about engaging with your with your customers, with your partners, to convince them that this was a good thing to do, and then trust that you're going to do the right thing by them and their data and their customer?
That's a really good question. I guess it just shows that we are using that relationship capital that the business has already built up with our partners. For example, in this insurance broking business.
Yeah.
Because I agree, it's letting a third party pretty much to come and work with your internal data, with your internal IT teams to try and improve business models. You have to share the data, you have to share the commercial aspects of it. So I think we really benefited from the strong relationships that business already had in place. And that's how we were able to run the data science projects. I guess also another one is when you are starting to run proof of concepts, it's important to try and have quite clear idea of what you're trying to deliver.
Yeah.
Because it's quite important to have a successful, even if it's a small success, ideally you would deliver something during your first or second proof of concept.
Yeah.
Which then gives you more permission to run more projects, right? And you get an opportunity to deliver more benefits.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. It's fascinating. And so did you take basically a proposition to the partners to say, look, we think we can have some improvement here. We've done some internal work to demonstrate there's value here. We think we can apply this thinking, these approaches to you and what you're trying to achieve. And can we work together on it? Did you sort of pitch it as an opportunity for them? And is that sort of how that's grown out?
I think that's an accurate way of putting it, because the first project, but any credibility within the market, once you've delivered a couple of projects, you've shown the clear benefits.
Yeah.
And you have, as I mentioned, insurance brokers, they are very entrepreneurial. They are very open to new ideas. So if you can come to them and say, this is the work that we can do for you, it works really well for other companies or similar companies in the industry. And we think it will benefit you. And I guess, again, it comes back to the stronger relationships and alignment of interests.
Yeah.
Because we are not charging for this work. We're selecting the biggest partners of ours. And it's a free value-add service to brokers who operate in the personal lines or individual insurance market, because we also have to have a chance of a return on the investment. The data science team costs money to run, and the project that we run, we would like to see a return, right? Either for stronger relationships or higher revenues.
Yeah, so there's something to learn there. I think even if who you're trying to convince of these opportunities and where data science can plug in. I love the idea of relationship capital. Got to build that up with your stakeholders, don't you? Even if that's you're the guy that sits in, or the gal that sits in the next desk along, or the next Zoom meeting along. Build those relationships, because when you then have an opportunity, you've got that rapport already, that cultural fit already. An alignment of interest, I think, is so important. The alignment of interest in what you're trying to achieve. So your interest isn't in doing data science. Your interest is in helping your partner become more successful, because that makes you more successful. And that alignment of interest to the outcome that they're trying to achieve is invaluable, I think, for sort of data science and analytics projects, which often gets missed, to be honest.
I guess, again, as I mentioned, and a lot of your guests spoke about this, this path to data science or the data world through love of data.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, data and data science just enablers of business strategy, right?
Yeah.
So you have to have a business outcome in mind. And sometimes it means maybe you're working on less complex problems, but you're solving business problems, which then lets you grow further and expand.
Yeah, well, that's the whole, don't try and find, don't take data science or AI or technology and try and find problems to solve with it. Find out what the problems are that need solving and apply the right solution to it. And if that's either a really basic model or a dashboard or an Excel spreadsheet, then that's fine as long as you get the value. But absolutely, you can give some of this stuff firepower by making, some, potentially quite complicated data science work really well for you. Are you also focusing on, as you said, you sort of cut across all the business. We talked about that externally facing stuff and the value add service. So you're not only you're set up as an agency for looking externally. Do you also focus on internal use cases also?
Yes. So when we started the internal team in 2018, as a new team, you do get to experiment quite a lot. So we worked with all different businesses across close borders, doing your, I guess now, standard data science projects like customer churn, helping with lead generation. You're always trying to identify projects in the businesses that can either help increase the revenue or reduce the cost. And sometimes, as you've said, it's not always about building the most complex model. We're working with our asset finance business on helping them generate better leads for the salespeople. And in the end, during running the project, we just identified a really great data supplier who would supply us with great leads. And there was nothing else data science would add to that solution. So you just run a really good process. You evaluate different data providers. And if a complex model doesn't add anything, well, there's no need to build it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's refreshing, Victor, to hear you say that, actually, because I know you've not necessarily come from a sort of data science background. You've pivoted yourself into it, but it's so common to hear that just sort of the technical side, wanting to focus on the technical bit, wanting to focus on building data science and complex data science, but this idea that apply the right solution to the right problem, regardless of the complexity behind, in fact, make it as simple as possible is what you're saying. Don't make it as complex as possible. I think that's really refreshing to hear. And I think it probably helps with the long-term, iteration and support and enhancements of what you've built as well. I assume you support what you build as well, particularly for your external partners. So do you try and sort of make your lives easier by making the solution as straightforward? I mean, sometimes it needs to be complex, but as straightforward as possible to make you an efficient team.
I guess these days we're now transitioning more towards the build plus support, whilst in the initial first couple of years, it was all about experimenting, trying to run as many projects as you can, just to identify where the biggest gains are around.
Right.
And yes, it's now a bit of a mindset shift for us to understand the importance of this continuous improvement, quality support, right, to make sure that everything is high availability, everything runs well.
Yeah.
So totally agree. I think there is this natural maturity.
Yeah. That's great. Which bits, sort of thinking about you and your role, Victor, which bits of all of this do you love the most? What excites you the most in the work that you do?
So yeah, that's a great question, Jason. For me, I guess it's a combination of a couple of things. I have a passion for business. I like to understand how the businesses work, how can you create additional value out of it. Love the idea of a long-term view on business. So a fan definitely of books by Simon Sinek with The Infinite Game and etc.
Yeah.
And I'm also passionate for data. I think it's a great enabler. To me, data is not going back. Data is just going to increase going forward. I probably compare it something similar to IT. 30, 40 years ago, when IT was introduced to businesses, it was a massive change in the commercial world. And I think it's something similar happening around the data, and businesses realizing the value of it. And obviously, being able to work with super smart people and solve problems for a living as your job, it's just a great privilege.
Yeah, could be worse. Could be worse ways to earn a crust, as they say.
Yeah.
That's great. I know we've spoken before about your kind of passion for building teams, and whilst I think you called this out, not a huge team, but I think building that team spirit is important to you. I think you've mentioned before. And how's it been through lockdown in terms of carrying on doing what you do, close, tight-knit team, working with some good internal stakeholders and working externally? How have you managed to sort of cope with the remote nature of work and running a data science team in lockdown?
I think it's been a tough period, to be honest, for all the teams within the bank, but the bank has been quite great. There has been a lot of support for employees, and within our team, it's been quite a, again, lucky coincidence that through your CDO hub that you run an event around creating high performance teams.
Yeah.
And you had Will Fraser from Saracen as one of your guests, and he spoke about the culture shift within Saracens, where they moved from trying to buy the most expensive talent they could to getting 100% performance from the players they had.
Yeah.
And so one of the changes that they introduced within Saracens at the time was trying to focus more on the person. So I remember how he said that businesses often speak about employees being the main or the most important asset within the business. But when it comes to all the meetings, you go straight away to business. You never discuss the personal aspects. And he said within Saracens, they introduced this rule where every meeting would start with personal questions, where players would discuss. I'm not sure what Saracens players discussed, but we introduced the same concept within our team. And so when we have a couple of team meetings per week, we will start them with a personal question. And it starts with discussing or maybe introducing how many siblings you have, right? And what are they better at than yourself? You have some funny ones, it all depends on the mood. You can discuss what's the best prank you've ever pulled. And then all the way to more deeper discussions around what's the most valuable possession that you have. And it just really lets you build that trust within the team, because you get to know the people behind your colleagues rather than just them as being your colleagues. So I think it really helped us. I just feel that we've bonded as a team, even during the pandemic when everyone's people on get those, standard Thursday night drinks, or we even missed on the Christmas dinners this year, right?
Yeah. So you've replaced the pub chat or the bar chat with a way within sort of a Zoom or a Microsoft Teams or whatever meeting to kind of get behind the person in your team. I really like that, and I think that creates, as you say, that feeling of care and attention to the individual, which ultimately makes people feel valued and wanted within a team, and not just there to sort of serve a purpose for the business. I think that's so important. Have you noticed a difference by doing that?
As I mentioned, I think that we definitely developed higher trust within the team. And a number of books talk about the importance of trust, because once you have trust, then if you're providing feedback, people know that you have their best intentions in mind, right? And you're not just criticizing them. Then you can challenge people. You can have more open conversations. I think you'll get back more feedback from them as well. Yeah. It just creates this atmosphere of cooperation, I guess. And I know that we spoke today about data and data science and using data science for partners. I think for listeners, really invite you to try this out. Give it a go for a month and see how it goes, because it's been fun for us.
Brilliant. I love that. Cool. What's next then, Victor, for you? So I can see you've got some, lots of work on your hands, but have you got some interesting projects you can share, use cases? What's the next improvement you're looking to make, next iteration on what you do? You've got to give us an idea of that, and then I think we'll start to wrap up.
Yeah. So plan is to continue to deliver value from data science projects. We have a couple of products in development. maybe it's worth me coming back in 6-12 months, just update you on how we iterate and how we improve on the work we already do with our partners and how we take that to the next level.
Yeah, love to hear that. Great. Well, let's book that in. I'm looking forward to hearing where you take things next, and I really appreciate you talking to us and telling us your story and what you're up to. And as I say, this idea of value-added service, even if you're talking about internal customers of a data function or a data science function, but even better, let's help your customer's customer. That's sort of the design thinking side of this whole story. I love it. Brilliant. Really, really good. And thanks very much for coming on the show, Viktor.
Thank you, Jason.
No problem. And thanks everyone for listening. We'll catch you and speak to you again sometime soon.